Hello, this is Shane from NerdHouseGeeks.com, and we're creating an online webcomic with C#.net. This is a full stack development series with a focus on design and architecture. So, here there won't be much coding, but just how we came up with the concept. So, let's get started. Now, let us look at a few websites before we start creating our own online comic. This is part of the creative process. We will sample ideas from already successful concepts. These online comics are fully featured, and we will review them as a base for creating our own websites. So let us take a look at a major sensation in web comics. To be honest, I was not impressed with my first look at the Homestuck online comic. I will say this: when you start reading it, it sucks you in. There's nothing as powerful as a great story. But from an architectural perspective, we do not care about the story, just the functionality. So let us analyze what we understand from a technical perspective. The artwork is not important to us. We have a page with navigation that allows us to upload the next image in the sequence. Sounds simple, but to architects, we see more than that. We also see the need to create a tool that will allow us to upload those images and allow us to reorder those images, replace images. The workload is always more involved. Most of all, we get a hint of what the data store should need and also what degree of flexibility is needed in the design of that store. And of course, the web comic still needs to have the usual suspects of a website: a home page, about page, and on and on. Okay, we will move on to another webcomic. This is Lacaday. This is an online comic my daughter turned me on to. Amazing artwork. But again, at this phase, we have to look past the art and see functionality. I'm going to click on Archive. On the volume 1, click on the first link. Again, I love the artwork. As an architect, I have to look past this amazing art and extract functionality, which is exactly the same as Homestuck. It is up to the artist to pick great colors and do what they do best. We are going to give them tools to make it so. Anyways, in this tool, we have a drop down that allows us to skip to any page a user wants to. So that's different from Homestuck. There's also a next button that allows you to move to the next image in the sequence, the same as it did with Homestuck. The layout is different, but looking past the UI, the data source we imagine when looking at Homestuck website, the same entity should successfully store data for this website. We have a page with navigation, we have an image and a link to move to the next page. Again, we need a data store that has entities for URL to images. Homestuck and Lackadaisy are webcomics that focus only on one comic. We're about to take a look at another classification of webcomics: social publishing platform for webcomics and web novels, where anyone can read stories or create stories and create and share their own stories. Sorry about that. But let's look at a little bit more Lackadaisy. Yes, yes, all fun. They also have a character gallery. We'll get there. Illustrations, store. We'll get there too. So now we're going to go over to hosting platform. I have two of them I'm going to talk about very quickly. This is TapAss.io. This is a social publishing platform for web comics, and in this environment, there are multiple publishers that share their comics. So, if there are multiple people who wanted to host in respect to our data source, our data store, we would have to make accommodations for that. But after that, creating a comic is just the same as we designed for Homestuck or Lacaday. So we haven't really started doing that yet, but let's just take a look that has these different categories. Um, and so these are all different publishers, as you can see. But behind it all, you know, you have your chapter. They chose to have their navigation over here. This one's pretty cool where you're scrolling and moving to the next image. So that's UI stuff. But still, in the end, this information is being stored a certain place, and then we will assemble it and give it to our users. And so at this point, we're focusing mostly on what we think we're going to have to do behind the scenes. UI may vary, but if we are designing the data store flexible enough, um, any UI can call services and get the right information displayed. Also going to go over here and look at the webtoons. I know this is kind of the long part, but again, here we go. Same kind of thing. Different structure here. What's come out Monday? What's going to be loose Tuesday? But still, after it's all said and done, it just comes down to. I actually don't know. Oh, yeah, here we go again. Strolling down. These are all cool little UI features. Okay, small world. Um, we have a section for comments. We can include all of that stuff. It's just a framework that I think is going to be fun to evolve. But the objective here is to make it clear that we're going to try to, not try, we're going to design this tool so that we can have one comic being hosted or multiple. And so I wanted to challenge myself, so this ought to be fun. And just stick with me, and I'll get us there. So here we have what I've come up with to allow the user or users to create books. And so that's the first functionality I'm going to try to get established. The back end of creating uh, a comic, and I wanted to accommodate one website or multiple or web hosting. Okay, not getting into all the technical server and all that stuff. We're databasing our way through it. This is a full stack course, so in this particular case, I'm starting with the database. Okay, so below is a blueprint of our data structure. We have determined what we will need to place to store the publisher's information, and a place to store book information, a place to store all the pages for that book. And pages is kind of deceptive because we're actually going to have URL to images stored in the database, a few other properties that will magically just become necessary. But as a base, this is where we're starting. We have the publisher. That's the highest layer in our structure. This is where we're thinking about whether we're going to have just one site, one comic or something that's going to host multiple. So that's what this store is gonna look like. And a publisher will have a book or multiple books. That's all possible. And those books will be pages. And for right now, those are URL images. As things get more creative, when you're writing the code, you can change it however you want to. Uh, because a series may not be inherent to books, we have a separate table that we can assign and label as a series, and then this will be the description, and then the books. And I'm assuming this, and I can tell that this is going to have a combination of series ID and books, and then what order they're in. So we're just focusing on this one section that I believe allow us to build all the other stuffs around it, because that's the core of what it's going to do. We get that right, and then we stick in the rest of the stuff and figure out all the damage. So after this is the creative part. I'm sure you may have come up with something different, but getting an idea of what the concepts are. And I hope you can see the text clearly. I thank you very much. Next, we'll be diving into the database.